Joining us now, our good friend, Congressman from Southwest Virginia, the 9th District Republican, Morgan Griffith. Congressman, great to have you with us, sir.
Great to be with you this morning.
Now, one thing about being in Southwest Virginia is you're not going to get the hurricane.
Well, we may actually get parts of it as well. We won't get the quite as heavy the winds as you all are going to face in the east. But what happens out here is we get all that water, and as you might imagine, it rolls down the side of a mountain and hits the valley, and it's just multiplied. And so we're looking at some pretty significant flooding possibilities, and we're getting prepared.
Well, that's all you can do because you're right, coming off that mountain. And the problem is the rain that we've had in Virginia this year has been just off the charts. I mean, it rains every day, and it's been basically doing that since January. So now you add, they're saying in the east and southeast Virginia, they're saying you add another 20 to 25 inches. I don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah, we're going to have some significant flooding issues somewhere in the east, and it's something that I know we're preparing for. I was on a call yesterday with FEMA, and lots of the congressmen and senators were on there just trying to make sure we're ready. But you can never be ready for something this big completely, and so we're just going to have to adjust.
No question about it. We're going to have to adjust and just hope for the best, because even today, there's several different models, Congressman. We don't know where this is going to hit. Apparently, there's a European hurricane model that says it's going to hit in Charleston and go west to Georgia, Atlanta, Macon. Then there's the other U.S. model that says it's going to come up to Virginia, hit us, and then continue up to Washington, D.C., the Eastern Shore. So no one knows. It's scary. Whatever it is, it's going to be something else. Now, just want to give you this side note. My family and I will be in Blacksburg next weekend, not for the Virginia Tech football game, but my son Joseph has a regional baseball tournament for the East Coast baseball team that he plays for, and we have a tournament in Blacksburg next weekend. So on our way there, we're going to stop and eat at that diner you took me to in Salem. What is that? I can never remember.
Yep, Mill Mountain Coffee and Tea.
Mill Mountain Coffee and Tea. I already told my family that we're going to stop in Salem, and this will probably be on Friday late by the time we get out of there. But we're going to definitely stop there. It'll probably be like 6 or 7 p.m. when we get there. So that's going to be fun. We're looking forward to that. Going to Blacksburg next weekend in Morgan Griffith country. Now, Congressman, let's talk about taxes. Your leadership saying they're going to introduce another tax plan in September that they think they're going to bring to the floor for a vote, which would do two things. Number one, make the personal tax cut piece of the Trump tax cut plan permanent. Right now it sunsets after, I think, 84 months. They had to do that for a number of U.S. Senate arcane rules reasons. But now they're also looking at some other tax cuts along with it as well. Can you explain what those are, sir?
Well, it's kind of like this storm. It's still developing, and we'll have to see what they finally bring to the floor. But we're trying to, make permanent the tax cuts because we want to make sure that families in the United States have the opportunities that we think they should have, that they should be able to keep a little bit more of their money, and look what it's doing for the economy already. Plus, we want to make it permanent so that it isn't easy to repeal. Should somebody want to come in and, take that money back away from the American families and the American businesses that are generating this economy, make it a little bit tougher. So we're hopeful that we can do that. And then there's a lot of things that are being talked about behind the scenes, but I want to wait and see exactly what's out there before I make a commitment to or get too excited about what they're doing. But the idea is to improve the economy, to keep the economy moving, and to make sure that we have lots of jobs.
Let's talk about the economy in Southwest Virginia in your district, District 9. We know the national numbers are phenomenal when you look at unemployment, the number of the wage growth that we've had, unemployment under 4% for 4 months, 3 consecutive, and it's only been under 4% for 4 times in almost 5 decades, 3 of those now under Trump. So we have all this great news. 401ks are up, the stock market up again, consumer confidence at an all-time high, no question, businesses expanding, capital investment up. We have more jobs than right now we have people filling them. Felons are getting hired. I mean, I could go on and on and on about how tremendous this U.S. economy right now. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Translate that back to Southwest Virginia.
We're doing better, John. We're doing better, but we're not doing as well as we would like to do because, as you know, when you have 8 years of a war on coal, and coal is one of the major industries, people often say, there's only 6 or 7 jurisdictions that actually mine coal in Virginia, and that's true. But then I have 22 counties and 7 independent cities, and in almost every one of those jurisdictions, you can find somebody who manufactures goods or sells equipment to the coal mining industry. And as a result of that, 8 years of just being pummeled, one regulation after another, has made it tough. And it doesn't just end when you change administrations, because now, the people who use coal to produce power, whether it be for a small factory or for electric generation, they're afraid to even think about starting a new coal-fired facility. And so that's really hurting us too. And so we're still under the weather. We're getting better, but we're not doing as well as the rest of the country. But I would encourage folks, we're working on some big economic development plans out here, both at the state level and the federal level. And I would encourage anybody that's having trouble finding employees where they are, hey, take a look at Southwest Virginia. We have a lot of skilled people. Those people don't realize that the folks in the mines learn a lot of skills. They may come right out of high school and go into the mine, but then they're taught how to be welders. They're taught how to be electricians. They're taught how to run giant equipment that digs into the side of a mountain, and it's all computerized today. So they have lots of skills that manufacturers can use, and we're looking for that to come. But that's one of the reasons why you need to make these tax cuts permanent. You need to give people some assurance that if they invest, they're still going to be able to get, a return on their investment later.
Congressman, elaborate on the fact that you said that you still have people in Southwest Virginia that are encouraged by what the president has done with deregulation, but are reticent to perhaps open up a new coal-fired plant, cautious to do that. Why?
Well, they're afraid that, if you get the Bernie Sanders types or the Hillary Clinton types or somebody who's, Barack Obama the second in office, that they'll be facing another, just totally, we don't care what it does to the economy. We don't care what it does to families. We're going to destroy the coal industry attitude. And they're afraid of that. Now, metallurgical coal used in making steel, of course, has had a resurgence, and that's where you're seeing some bump up. Because, when you have an economy like the one we now have, everybody needs steel, because you can't make your good quality steel with natural gas or electricity. You can reshape already made steel with those things, but you can't really make the good stuff without coal. And so metallurgical coal is doing just fine, and it's coming back, and we're seeing some real improvement in the economy in that area. Is doing better. It's just that people are hesitant on what we call the steam coal, the stuff used for power. And that's hurting us some. It's hurting Kentucky. All of Central Appalachia is hurt by that attitude.
How do you get a permanent change here, Congressman?
Well, I think, one, you have to elect Republicans who are pro-coal and pro-all energy above, everything that you can use this year. And then we have to make sure that we have Trump or a Republican in office in the next election cycle, and then I think people start to feel better. And if we get a third term under our belts, then I think you'll see it back to normal.
The Quinnipiac poll that just came out yesterday has the Democrats with now, they say, a 14 generic point lead over Republicans on the generic House ballot. Only a few months ago that the Republicans had whittled that down to like 5. Now it's way back up to the danger zone, because when you look at that generic poll, when it gets over 12 for the Democrats, that's when you do historically have this blue wave. Are these polls accurate, sir?
We've seen polls that just don't give us accurate numbers these days, and I don't know that we'll know the answer whether that's accurate until after the election. I will tell you that, there is a lot of angst out there. People like the policies that the administration has, but the president has a different edge to him. I don't use the language he uses, and I know a lot of people say that's how he distracts them from what's going on over here. But the policies are doing great things for our economy. But the president does say things from time to time that rile up folks, and not just the Democrats. Some of those folks who are in the middle, and that may be part of it. But we won't know. I mean, remember, the president wasn't supposed to win.
Right.
And he won. And I remember my first election back in 2010, every poll had me behind until 1 week out, and then I was 1 point up and within the margin of error in only one poll, and we won by 4.8. So polling data is not as good as it used to be because people don't trust the pollsters, so they don't tell them accurate information, or they just don't talk to them.
What's the mood in your caucus? Is it cautious? Is it upbeat? Is it doomsday is coming? What's the mood?
I think it's cautious. It's cautious.
If you had to guess right now, Congressman, how do you think the Republicans in the House are going to do in the midterms?
I think you're going to, and I don't know how we'll do overall. I think we hold on, but probably just a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I think it all depends on each individual race. The national trends are important. But, somebody who's out there who people think is okay who's not working might very well lose. People who are out there who people think are in trouble, and if they're out hustling and working and talking to people, they may very well win. So I don't know that you have to look at the national trends. That does make a difference. But because we see it coming, I think in previous wave years they didn't see it coming. And so they, people like my opponent in 2010, he didn't think he had a problem and start campaigning until the 1st of October. Mm-hmm. So I think if people are out there working, and I think most Republicans are, then I think you may see some surprises where, people think they're going to beat a Republican and all of a sudden the Republican ekes out a win. I don't think it's going to be huge wins in either direction. I think that the nation is split, unfortunately, even in spite of all the good things that are happening in the economy. And I think you're going to see a lot of close races, and we probably won't know anything until the 7th or 8th.
All right.
On those final races, it'll be a long night.
It's going to be a long night. I'm predicting the Republicans hold on by 3-5. It's going to be very close. And you're right. There's a lot of California races that are now competitive in what should be Republican-held districts due to retirements and other things, San Diego, Orange County, Anaheim. We'll see how all that plays out. We're going to be up very late, no doubt, on election night. We hope. If we go to bed early, it's probably not a good thing for Republicans. It's a good if they're up very late. 25 past the hour in the John Fredericks Radio Network, trucking the truth across America. We're with Republican Congressman from Virginia, Morgan Griffith. He's from Salem, and that is the 9th District, which is all of Southwest Virginia, and I'll be in his district next week. Looking forward to that next weekend in Blacksburg. Speaking of Blacksburg, Virginia Tech, what do you think? Unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. If they can continue to play like they did against Florida State, they're going to have a great season. I was at the William and Mary game, and while they did fine, they did have a couple of fumbles there early on that if they'd been playing a team as fast as Florida State, they would have lost those. And anytime you're turning the ball over, that's a problem. So they're going to have to make sure they do a little bit better on hanging on to the ball on offense. Defense, though, oh, my goodness. Bud Foster has just done it again, and nobody expected it, and it's just fantastic. And hats off to the coaching team and the players at Virginia Tech.
Well, what he's done, he's got a very young defensive squad, but, boy, if you saw that Florida State game, I mean, the way they fly to the football was very impressive. And, look, Florida State, they had big home crowd. They had their quarterback back. He was out. Of course, he got hurt in the first game last season. But Foster just took it right to them. I thought that was one of the best games I've seen Virginia Tech play in a very long time. Congressman, got a couple minutes. Let's get to the international scene. Idlib in Syria. This could be one of the biggest international catastrophes since basically the Second World War. I mean, it is this bad. 1 million people, they're there. The Assad regime is now mounting a major offensive. It is the last stronghold of the rebels. They're backed by the Russian military, Russian planes, Russian fighter jets. and you got 1 million people there, 1 million civilians, and this is it. This is the final province they have. Once Assad drives them out, he gets control of the entire country back. Yet the U.S., I know they're talking a lot, but I don't know what the plan is. Do you have any idea?
Well, no, and in fairness, the Trump administration was handed a bad hand.
Right.
All of the missteps by the Obama administration put us in a position that's really tough. If we didn't want the Russians playing heavy in there, and look, Assad has always been a Russian surrogate,
right,
so to speak, and action needed to be taken a long time ago. And if the Obama administration had been aggressive and made it clear that they weren't going to stand for it, I always said that the right policy would be to tell the Russians, get rid of Assad. We're not trying to take away your base. They've got a base there that they need to have for their Navy. But get rid of Assad, and we'll go away. Make sure that the minorities are not being abused, and you pick whoever you want. But we never did that. We never showed truly that we were going to follow through on the red lines that President Obama kept putting down on the ground. So the Russians are like, hey, they're not going to do anything. We're just going to go ahead and do what we want to, and that's what they've done. And now we're in a position where it's probably too late for us to really do anything effectively, other than try to make sure that it's not a total humanitarian disaster. That's about the best we can do at this point, in my opinion.
Congressman, I agree with you 100%. In fact, I've asked a number of congressmen this question. That's the best answer. There's nothing we can do other than manage the humanitarian crisis, the refugees, and minimize the innocent civilian bloodshed. That's the best answer that I've had so far this week, and I think you're spot on. There isn't anything we can do except ease the suffering. We're out of time. Morgan Griffith, I had to have him on to straighten the whole Syrian thing out in a minute and a half. Thanks for being with us.